Hey everyone, it's Nikolai Pavlov and I'm back with some Power BI tips and tricks. In this video, we'll continue learning about cleaning, transforming, and formatting data. This time, however, we're going to look at a sales table. Alright, let's jump into Excel and see what we got. It's a pretty basic sales table. You may have seen this before. I have the names of my salespeople in rows. And as columns, I have the names of my cities. This could be geographic locations such as north, east, west, south, right, etc. This could be stores in one city, it could be countries, whatever. For the sake of learning, I made some outrageous formatting in this table. For example, whoever sent me a March report really likes caps lock, and everything is written in these capital letters, right? And then I have some spaces here. Our task is to clean and format this table for further analysis. Right now, as it looks, this is not a good formatting for analysis. Okay, let's throw this table into Power Query. So first of all, we need to separate dates into a separate column. To separate dates, we will use the function split column. We will select the column, and then in the Home tab, we'll find Split Column function, and then click by Delimiter. And here we can see that the date comes after a colon. So we can select the delimiter to be a colon. After that, we can click OK, and we have our dates separated. Well, first of all, let's format it and get rid of this caps lock stuff here. We can select the column and then click the right click of the mouse, and then here choose transform, and then select capitalize each word. Now the caps lock is gone, and then we can do transform again, and then we can do trim. Trim will remove all these spaces before the names, like so. Now let's use the fill down function and then fill down all of these null values with appropriate dates. Let's select fill down. We can have all our dates written down in a particular month for certain salespeople. Now let's remove some unnecessary rows from the first column. We don't really need sales report. We will delete null values as well and totals. Alright, we'll click on the right button next to the column here, and then we will remove, like I said, sales report. We will remove null and totals. Click OK. Alright, our next objective is to build a separate column for cities. In other words, I want to have the names of my cities in one column stacked from top to bottom. So Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, Montreal, all in one column. One way I could do it is by pivoting table. Right here is one important thing. I didn't delete the salesperson row just yet because every salesperson row has the name of the city. So if I deleted this row, then my city names would be lost. What I'm going to do now is promote first rows as headers. And now, after I have the names of my cities as headers, I can pivot the table and put the names of my cities in one column. To do this, I will hold Shift and then select all of the columns I want to pivot. Click right click and then unpivot columns. Now I have the names of my cities in one column. I can rename this column right away as city. This will be date. And now, after I have all the cities in one separate column, I can simply remove the salesperson row because I don't really need neither salesperson row or cities in the fourth column. To do this, I click on this button and remove salesperson. And name as well. I don't really need name here. I will remove name. Okay, now I have this table pretty much the way I want. Rename this as revenue. And lastly, The final step would be for me to separate the employee ID from the names of my salespeople. I see that my table is formatted in a way that after the name of each employee there's a slash and then the number of that employee. To separate these numbers from names, I can simply use the split column function again in my home tab. Select this column, split column by delimiter. My delimiter would be a slash sign, and Power Query rightly identifies that, and I click OK. I can see that Power Query has deleted the zeros in front of my numbers. The number of James, for example, was 001, and because Power Query is treating the ID as a whole number, it has obviously deleted the zeros in front of the number. To return these zeros in front of the number, I will click here and change it back to text. Replace current. Okay. Now my employees' IDs are back, and I can rename this column as employee ID. And lastly, in my table, really, I don't use the last names of my salespeople. They simply go as Jane, John, and Susan. But in some of my reports from March, I believe somebody put in their last names. This is really easy to remove as well. You just have to click on the column and then split column by. This time we are splitting it by space, and Power Query correctly identifies that again. Click OK. Now in my first column I only have the first names of my salespeople. That's what I need. I will delete the second and third column with the last names and some null values. There we go. Let's rename that as a salesperson. Lastly, let's put this as a currency. And now my table is pretty much ready. I can close and load it back to Excel. And I will put this new table right next to the original table so you can compare the two tables. Table to existing worksheet right here. All right. As you can see, the resulted table is formatted in the right database format, and you can do further analysis with it. In Power BI and in Power Query, we want our tables to be narrow and long, like this one here. The original table that we had was not really formatted for analysis, but with this kind of table, we can do all kind of analysis. For example, we can right away see how many items were sold in Vancouver. We can calculate revenues, we can calculate percentages, all sorts of stuff that you need to do. I hope you liked my video, and if you found it helpful, consider subscribing to my channel. Feel free to ask any questions or comments, and I'd be happy to get back to you. Have a nice day, and I'll see you later.